What's good, everybody? Black Phoenix Podcast, MC and TR back again one more time. But you're going to notice a big difference. We have a panel tonight. We're going to call this the Fathers panel. I have strategically picked these individuals to come kick it with us tonight because we do not want an echo chamber. We want a strong masculine men with their own opinions and own perspectives. So we are here. We about to get this thing rolling. So appreciate y'all hanging out with us. TR, you got any opening words?
Hey, this I'm expecting some fun things out of this panel.
Indeed. All right, let's go ahead and get it started then. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and we're going to get this first topic up and popping.
Oh, yeah. If you're not talking, go ahead and mute up if you can.
Oh, yeah, especially if you got background noise. All right, raising young men. Here's the clip that's going to lead us in, fellas.
I keep my boys humble. Like, my boys have never had a pair of Jordans. You know, my boys don't do all that internet fly shit. I'm like, your kids. And no, I don't give a. I could be the biggest star in the world. Do not let me catch you being stupid. Mm-hmm. Do not. And my oldest gets it. My 15-year-old, he tells the other ones, he's like, yo, don't make dad mad. Because once you get one that's right, he gonna straighten the other ones out. Mm-hmm. So it's just that thing of, in the past 20 years, we've been living through the death of the American male. They have literally killed masculinity in our homes and our communities, for one reason or another. But I raised my boys to be young men. And however you feel about that, you feel about that. Right. But my boys will always be respectful. They will always say, yes, sir, yes, ma'am. No, sir, no, ma'am. They will always say thank you. They will always open a door for a lady. They will always make sure that their mother is taken care and provided for. They will always be men. And that's always since they were 2 years old. Every time I left for a job, I tell my 15-year-old, you're the man of the house. You make sure these doors are locked every night. This alarm is on. You text me or you call me every night before you go to bed and you wake up.
I love that.
Because we're men. If I'm not there to protect, he got to be there to protect. Because you can have all the money in the world, climb through the window, that money means nothing. Right. You can have all the celebrity in the world, jump through the door, that celebrity means nothing. Yeah. So you got to have a little guard in there. You know, and so for me, it's always that idea of American masculinity is very different.
All right, fellas, so you heard the video. We're going to kick this off starting with AK. Is American masculinity different than any other type of masculinity, and how does it impact raising young men?
Shit. Is American masculinity different? Hell yeah, it's different. I mean, I'm first generation African. We're Nigerian, and like we're raised, you know, even though we were raised by a single mother, we were still raised under like African standards, and like, you know, people talk about it in memes and stuff like that, like, you know, men were men, like, but like that's how it is over there, you know, like the roles were like kind of definitive, and it's not like in a way of like, you know, disrespecting or like segregating people. Now, like women are really empowered in the African household too, but like, you know, the roles are respected differently. In the US and America, dog, you know, this shit, it's different. It's crazy because like I was just having a conversation with somebody about this earlier. Like, we want to be so different, and we want to be so like, we want to make everybody happy, you know, that people want to be inclusive as possible, but like,
ooh, hold that thought. We're gonna come back to that point you just made, but I want everybody to make the initial points, and then we're gonna open it up.
Okay, well, I'll say it's different. It definitely is different.
RJ, what are your thoughts on masculinity and its influence on raising young men?
You know, that's really a big thing. For me, I think it's generational. Me being a little bit older, I can agree with Anthony Mackie's whole thought about yes, sir, no, ma'am, and whatnot. I feel like we've kind of moved away from it, and so yes, it's to have that firm foundation and key to what a man should be and the role he should play. When that's lacking, yeah, lots not going to come together. So yeah, no, this is a good topic.
Appreciate that. Cole, where do you stand on masculinity and raising young men?
So it's interesting, right? Because I'm very, I guess, as a man, I don't feel differently about manhood than I think a lot of people do. I definitely agree with the protection and provision, but I think that a lot of times the part about manhood that is not spoken about is the fact that we enjoy it. Like we're not actually allowed to enjoy the fruits of being men. Like, for instance, just simply being a father. When we speak about a lot of the tenets of being a man, a lot of it is things that we talk about as though we have to, or things that we're forced to do because of the society that we live in. But as the brother, I'm sorry, I forget your name, and my screen is very small because it's a phone, and I have bad eyesight. But as you were saying, you're from Nigeria, and a lot of times, what it is I feel that we're missing here in America is the fact that even if you think about the saying that we need a men in the household, the reason why we need men in the household here is because the culture isn't reinforcing and teaching manhood. To where in the culture, if the culture was doing that, now a single mother is empowered to raise a man, to raise a man child because the culture backs her up. So I don't know. I'm gonna be honest with you. The question kind of caught me off guard, so that's kind of why I'm like, you know, doing a little hopscotch. But I like it. So there's a lot to
This
it.
the warm up, so this is getting everybody the chance to warm up, so don't even sweat it. We
Okay.
gonna call you ML instead of saying all those letters. So ML, how significant is masculinity in raising young men, and is it existing or is it lacking?
I think it depends on where you are. I think personally, honestly, for me, it's weird because I think there's different types of masculinity depending on your culture. In America, we have a lot of cultures within cultures, and for Black men in particular, I think you're raised to hide your emotions and just soldier through, which I think is something kind of universal with all the different cultures in America. So for me, it's hard to find a balance of being the man that society wants you to be while understanding the man that you are and trying to put those two things together and present it to the rest of the world. It's difficult. Like for me, I teach my son it's okay to show your emotions where that's something we don't normally do. You just pick up and keep moving every day no matter what. You show up for your family, you show up for your friends, you try to be a source of strength, which gets hard because when you're the rock, who do you lean on most times? Which is the hardest thing for me being a man, because every segment of society has their idea of what a real man should be. I've always found that confusing because I'm like, you are what you are as a human being first, and depending on where you at, you can be looked at as a strong man, where in another place you might be looked at as a weak man or an immature man. It kind of depends on where you're at and who you're around. But I just teach my son, be who you are, and it kind of is what it is. No one can tell you what you are as a man. Only you can tell yourself that. You just got to shut all that other stuff out.
Got you. TR, same question for you. How significant is masculinity in raising young men, and how existing is it today?
Yeah, masculinity is definitely something that's lacking today, and with some of the men I think we're probably the last generation. I don't know everyone's age, but I think we're the last generation where masculinity was where we know what true masculinity looks like, and now people are trying to tell us what masculinity is, and then as well as say like, hey, you're being toxic masculine, and you have to operate a certain way. Like, I think we're past that point where this new generation, I don't know how they're going to be able to become masculine unless they have fathers in their lives, and especially in the Black community where if you don't grow up without, I didn't grow up with the father, but it's going to be difficult because you're going to have everyone telling you that are not masculine or they're women telling you how you need to be acting. And the crazy thing with some of that stuff is that's the stuff that's going to get you either, I don't know, say deleted, or they're going to have you, single. Like, those aren't things that are not going to help you be the man you need to be in this world, especially in the United States. Like, we're seeing a lot of crazy things happen in 1 week, in 1 month. And partly because a lot of those people in there, they just don't have any masculine trait. They're afraid to, stand up and say what they want to say, or, be vocal in their own communities. And it's unfortunate though, because Mackey's spot on. He's trying to tell how he's raising his sons. But again, people aren't going to listen to that. I mean, I want to say this video did go viral, but I don't think it went viral for the right reasons. And no one's really talking about it anymore, which is unfortunate. But it was a good conversation by Mackey, but it just, people aren't interested in things related to, fathers being active in their kids' lives, unfortunately.
So let's pivot real quick, because you mentioned one of the buzzwords that's the hot topic of today. I personally am irritated with this word, but I want to see how y'all feel about this. Toxic masculinity. I happen to believe that it doesn't exist. And I happen to believe that any example that you can think of toxic masculinity is actually it's the opposite. Like, for example, a man who holds a woman down and SAs her, that's not masculinity. That's somebody who's abusing their power. So is toxic masculinity, is it real or is it cap? Cole, let's start with you.
Okay. So toxic masculinity is both cap and it's both real. It's cap because it was absolutely made up by some people that felt away. But now it's become this real thing. And to be honest, it's one of the most unfair things because we end up having to defend it when the truth of the matter is it's real simple. All of those examples of toxic masculinity, if you sit down with any man who you respect, and one of the things that I'd like to say is that, and I said this on another podcast, we all have different definitions of manhood, but if we all sat in a room, all with our different definitions of manhood, there is a spirit of manhood to where I could look at each one of you maybe operating in your version of manhood, and I'm going to respect that. So let's say that we have that group of men sitting down in a room and we lay out all of the things that are called toxic masculinity. I believe that close to 100% of the time, we're going to be like, that's not toxic masculinity. That's just not masculinity. But we also know that the vilification of the Black man is something that's kind of sponsored, right? I want to stay away from forever blaming us for where we are. I know it's our responsibility to get out of it, but I'm never going to blame us. But the vilification of the Black man is one of those things. And it's really easy to attack that. And it's promoted through social media, which kind of guides a lot of our narratives. We know what's true, but and thanks to the show that you just mentioned, The Pivot, and other sports people like that, is really only now that Black men are starting to be able to have a voice and speak for ourselves. And we're still being dismissed. So, in short, it's not real.
Got you.
It's not real at all. But we do have to deal with the ramifications of people believing that it's real.
Sure. ML, toxic masculinity, is it facts or is it cap?
I think it's 100% cap. I think the influence of the internet and social media and everyone being able to reach everybody else with their opinion instantly. It's just when we were younger, before the internet, if you had a dummy with an opinion, he just had to talk to other people around him or whatever they thought was kind of localized. Now you can find like-minded people all over the world without ever leaving your house. So everybody just gets together and they decide. A lot of these things are real subjective, but the toxic masculinity is just nonsense to me, because what's toxic now when we were kids was kind of the it thing. Like that's what you want to be as a man. And now that we're older, society wants to tell you, yeah, you can't be that anymore. And I think you could absolutely be that, to each his own. I think being strong and having a healthy amount of confidence and being the man that you want to be, there shouldn't be anything wrong with that. And depending on who you are and what level of status you have in this world, they'll accept it from certain people. They'll accept it more from professional athletes or celebrities because we put all these people on pedestals nowadays. But as an average everyday man, it's a problem.
ML, are
And
you
I
implying
think
that there's more grace for people with a platform or with wealth when it comes to masculinity?
absolutely there is. I think also this heavy push of feminism and all these independent, empowered women now also impacted a lot. I mean, depending on how they see you as an individual, is whether they want to label you toxic or they want to label you as a great man. Same thing if you shoot your shot at a lady, depending on whether she finds you attractive or not, determines whether you're a creep or not. Just it's all in the eye of the beholder. And I think we all get so bogged down with buzzwords and these silly notions. Everybody thinks they know what it is to be a man, and most of the people with that opinion aren't even guys. So how you gonna tell me what I need to do as a man when you're never gonna walk in my shoes or be one?
Hey, MC, let me jump in real quick.
Go
So
ahead, TR.
the thing with toxic masculinity is that it's being weaponized against majority of men. And I'm not sure what's the best way to combat this, because when it comes to politics, you act like you walk in there, dick swinging in there. I shouldn't be saying that, but swinging in there, they're going to get you up out of there, especially if you're in the Democratic Party, because they do not want anything close to anyone being overly masculine. And so as we're trying to raise young boys up, it's especially if they're trying to like in colleges and everything, you're not going to be able to like have them like be themselves. They're going to have to like be a shell of themselves, which is unfortunate. I think the best thing for a lot of men to do is just to tell, I think Emily, I think you said it, just you got to raise them to be who you are, and then don't let people compromise you, especially when you're operating with women. Because what I see a lot of times happening is, if you invite women into men's spaces, they start changing the dynamic of things. People start putting their capes on. People start, shuffling on certain things. They don't want to be, I don't want to be mean. I don't want to say it mean, but I think we need to get back to that, saying things bluntly as they should be said. Because when you dance around this subject, that's when we start getting all these, people thinking that it's okay to, do all this weird shit with your kids, but it really isn't. And we should be able to say stuff like the whole bathroom thing. Like, I know there's going to be some other topics down the road that we'll be able to discuss, though, but that's a big topic. And most men should have a problem with that, but most men are meek and quiet about it, which is unfortunate.
Yeah. AK, what about you? Where do you stand? Facts or cap on the? Oh wait,
I think
Kobe has something.
Yes. So I really want to speak about this because you brought it up, and I think that we should speak to it really quickly. I have something, and I think it ties into what I was saying about us enjoying the things that we do as men. Like, I don't think that it's that hard. I just think that we've never had the opportunity to do it, and we just have to start promoting and being happy about the regular things. Like, I got into an argument with somebody over a post because they were celebrating LeBron James for being a good father and a good husband. And they were like, why are we celebrating this? This is just something that we're supposed to be doing. And that's the attitude that we have to not have. So now we can start promoting what actual masculinity is. And the truth of the matter is, actual masculinity is not aggressive or mean. We can be nice guys. Like, we actually would be nice guys. Masculinity is like those brothers that showed up at the school and was giving high fives to all the kids while they were walking into the school. That's what real masculinity is, where I'm already good taking care of my kid, and now I have a little bit of extra energy for the rest of the community, and I'm going to be a father to the rest of the kids. That's the positive stuff. So the way that we're going to combat the concept of toxic masculinity is simply by promoting what we feel is real masculinity, and then giving ourselves the credibility is like, I mean, I know, me and Mike, we do stuff in Phoenix. Like there are men that are actually out there serving the community. We need to start promoting it and lose the mentality of, oh, he's just doing what he's supposed to be doing. So what?
Hey, Coach, real quick.
Yeah, my bad. I'm sorry. Did I go too long? I
No.
need to land the plane.
No.
Good question. What are we going to do about the men? And I know, and this is the thing, most men, most black men, and most men in general just don't have kids. But what are we going to do about the men that are knocking up these women? Because that's the other issue, is that, as much as you try to help out the community, you still got people destroying the community.
Nothing.
I mean, that's a whole other tough thing. Holding other men accountable.
We're not gonna do. You can't.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Hold on. Let me snatch the mic. Hold on. Snatch the mic. Everybody mute for 60 seconds. Hold on. Look, the biggest part of masculinity that's missing is accountability. Men do not hold men accountable, because if you call somebody out on a BS, what they're going to do is either try to fight you, or they're going to stop talking to you for 2 years because they're stuck in their feelings. So I love the position of, it's particularly in my friendship circle. TR's been one of my closest friends since the 7th grade. If I'm doing something dumb, he's going to be one of the first people to tell me. ML's known me since I've been born. He's seen me do stuff that's stupid. I've caught criticisms from him as well. Like, that's the part that's missing with masculinity, in my opinion. Accountability has to come with masculinity. And I yield my time.
Yeah, but you didn't
wait. No. He's right. No, he is right. But here's the thing. What I'm saying is, we're not going to do nothing about those other guys that TK, or is that TR? TR. Okay, yeah. We're not going to do nothing about them. They're not in our circles. And the truth of the matter is, what can you do to stop those guys from going out and knocking up those women, except for really getting in the way and being those women's chastity belt? If they want to give it up, they're going to give it up, and those men are going to do. The truth of the matter is, it's usually one guy has like 20 bodies.
Small percentage.
It's really,
yeah.
So,
I mean,
so what we have to do is just do what we do, and we have to do it proudly and loudly, because
I got you next.
I'm sorry, but the last thing, they just get a loud platform. We don't have to do anything about them. We just have to be us and promote us, because I know for a fact that we're doing great things. Just promote it. No,
I got you too, RJ. Hold on. AK, you got the floor.
All right, so like 2 things, like just while that's still there and fresh in my mind, my thing is, I understand that the only reason why I constantly feel like something needs to be done is because, as far as accountability, is because, if I'm getting dressed to like the standards of like the dudes around me, and dudes around me ain't shit, I want them to be better. Like, but that's why like mentoring and that type of stuff is a big thing for me, because if I can't change people around me now, for the future, we'll try to help the next generation be better and do better. That's one thing. Toxic masculinity. So from the things that we've all been talking about, the things we've all been talking about here is really just regular masculinity. Like, what I've looked up and what I've seen is like, what people think of like toxic masculinity is like, SA, like, things that like a lot of people didn't have a definition before, but like now we know it's like a lot of trauma. Like, and that's how those things come up. Like, that's how people like, they do, like, they're in DD type stuff, and we've learned that, like, thankfully we've made a better emphasis on mental health and stuff. So in time, we've learned that like men who have done that, like, they've really suffered by that original condition of like not having anybody to talk to, or just witnessing a lot of trauma and that acting out in their own lives. Like, now that we know that and what it's called, there should not really be a use for the term toxic masculinity, but it's a scapegoat for like, just, it's a general term rather than doing further research. When people want to have lazy arguments, it's something people can use. And definitely we're up against it. Shit, black men in the world. It's the hardest character to play as, but
Okay. Okay.
we have
RJ.
to understand.
My
No,
bad.
yeah, no, it's pretty. That's pretty much it. We just have to understand, and like we know what we're up against, and like just still enforce all these masculine things. Still enforce like it doesn't look the same, but like it looks respectful. It looks like minding your manners. It looks like just treating them well, treating each other well.
All right, RJ, take us home on this topic before we jump to the next one. You on mute.
Let me go ahead and unmute. I was about 5 seconds from grabbing that mic because y'all missed me on that first round. So I know I do a lot of hosting. It's weird to be a guest. I was sitting here about to blow up. So anyway, feminist buzzword cop out. That's toxic masculinity right there. And we seem to let women take that term and let them refine it, redefine it, and do everything that they want to it. And then it becomes situational. It fits the situation for the person. He yelled at me. Well, a real man wouldn't do this and wouldn't do that and whatnot. So it gets abused. It's the ultimate cop. Yeah. And I feel like when I call it a cop out, it is. And I'm going to segue from that because we beat that one to death. But I'll go ahead and say this too. When it comes to accountability, I made a podcast a while called The Purge. And I said it comes time when us as black men, we're going to have to cut some of our own off. Remember the Titans. Sometimes you got to cut a man loose because a lot of these brothers that you want to be accountable for, they're not ready. They're not wanting that. They're seeing the fruits of what I call my wife. I said, once we get out of COVID, it's over. Ain't nobody want to get married. Everybody's going to be serial daters. Everybody's going to go through it's just going to be a mess, which it truly has been. So now it gets to the point to where there's just some folks you just got to say, you know what, bro, you got to go. I can't, because we're starting to carry the weight of so many people. We start to lose the motivation to want to, in the part of being a mentor, being men. That's the key thing. And when I say purge, we have to. Right now, black men needs to find out what the warrior class, what that definition means, because we're lacking that. We're lacking that want to make a difference, or we've been so conditioned to not just, you'll profit more just to shut up and say nothing. That doesn't benefit us anymore. Right now, we're at a crossroads. And from people either not saying something, not wanting to take a stand, we are in what we are in right now. And I'm to the point now where it's scary. Let me say this. I lost a child. My oldest child passed away. I have a younger child. And I have dealt with everything that AK was talking about, and MC, you know my story, which I'm not going to go into. But the thing about it is, I've seen it. I've seen the toxic masculinity label being placed on me personally. I was accused of DV with no proof. Had to go literally defend my life. I still to this day carry along the dismissal paperwork because a person formerly in my life, the mother of my children, felt like that's a good way to get you out of the picture. I don't want a male. See, either you want to be a male in the household or you just want to be present. There's a difference. I wanted to be present and accountable to my children, to make the example, to set the example. I'm 52 years old. I came from that generation where, this is my turn, where you got your ass beat. Well, I came from a military family where, like it said, yes, sir, no, ma'am, open doors. You didn't get rewarded for being a good dad. That was expected. That's like saying you go buy a new car and you tell them, you know what, hold the engine. I don't need it. No, that's not how it works. It's an all or nothing deal. And these women now are only accepting men who are just there in the sense of, well, I'm here. It doesn't work. A man is better off being absentee than being in a home doing nothing. He's actually
That's gonna be another topic for another day. That's gonna be a hell of a discussion.
Boy, y'all, I'm gonna mute myself. Y'all got me
bring RJ back.
Yeah. Let's move on because
Okay, let's move on. Let's move on. Y'all got me.
Yeah, we're gonna move on to the next topic. So we got quite a few to go.
How long do we have?
We already halfway through the show. We just only got through one topic.
Damn, bro.
Yeah,
You gotta understand. You give men an opportunity to speak. Don't nobody let us talk. We need hours, bro. We got stuff to say. I love this. Okay.
Well, if any of y'all, we might go over a little bit tonight, but here we go. I got 2 short videos for the next topic, fellas. We talked about the Suns.
I have time. I don't know if everybody else got time. I got time. I'm enjoying myself.
We'll circle back to that in just a second, but let's move on to the next topic. We talked about masculinity and sons. Now let's talk about the little ladies. I'm gonna show 2 quick videos.
I have 3 sons. 3 sons. When you're 18,
let me start.
Get out. I have 3 daughters and I have 3 sons. 3 sons. When you're 18, get out. Get out. Now, while you're out, better get 1 degree, 2 degrees before you come messing with me. Like, I'm not just gonna be funding stuff because you want to do it. I did to them like somebody did to me. When they turned 18, I went to the bank because I spent $1 million in one day. And the guy gave me a book, The Dummy's Guide to Starting Your Own Business. I gave them all the same book. And I said, here you go. You're a man now, make a decision. But if you ever want to come mess with me, I need 1 or 2 degrees. Now the ladies are a little different. Hey, baby, you can stay as long as you want. Hell no. Love you, sweetheart, no boys, don't worry about getting married. And, you know, the conversation I had with my 6 children, I said, look, we don't need another basketball player. Your daddy's crazy. You don't need to be like me. I have 3 daughters.
Hold on, 1 more video. Close that one out. I got 1 more video for you. Then we're going to kick off the conversation. All right. You're going to notice a theme here.
Because I told my daughter, yeah, baby, don't worry about it. You can always come home. You always got a room. My son, he can come home, but he get the couch. Eventually, he got to get the fuck out. He got to. He a man. You got to go. You can always come home, and sometimes it may not when shit don't work out. I ain't knocking that because you got to get back up on your feet. You know what I'm saying? But just know, nigga, this is temporary. Right. You know?
All right, fellas, we're going to kick this off with TR. We're all fathers here, some with both, some with sons only, some with daughters only. But should your fathering / masculinity change when raising daughters versus sons? TR.
I don't think it's going to change. Well, I'll say this. With a lot of men or young men growing up, I mean, sometimes you got to go through a lot of pain just to be who you're going to be in this world. When everything's given to you, that doesn't make for a good man, unfortunately. I'm not saying you gotta fall into a pit and pull yourself out though, but kicking your boys out, like I'll ever hear with boys getting in trouble or when someone's with women when they're 18 or 19, their frontal lobe's not developed, but you're kicking your sons out at 18, 19, and you're not going to help them. And I think they probably are going to help them, but the way they made it sound like they won't help him with anything. And he has to get 2 degrees. Well, you're probably going to have a degree until you're in your mid-20s. And for a lot of boys or young men, I mean, you really ain't got anything, but your sister or the daughters, they stay home. They get to, stack all the chips. They get to get in, come into this world. And those are people in your dating market. They're the ones telling you like, you ain't got anything. So if anything, you're doing a disservice to you're giving your daughter like a tilted look into life though, because when she gets out there in the world, because of your teachings, the way you raised her, she's going to see that the men in her age range, they're not men she wants to be. If anything, you're going to push her to someone that's a little bit older, someone that has all their shit together, because she's never been pushed out of the nest. She's never had to really, fight for anything. This actually reminds me of feminism. Like they're given everything. They never have to fight for anything. And then they want to act like this is something that we worked for when you really didn't. But for the men, I think that's a mistake that, you know, you can help your son a little bit. I'm not saying you gotta, you know, like hold his hand or anything, but I mean, don't buy him a brand new car, buy him a, you know, a clunker. I think most boys get clunkers. Honestly, I got a clunker, you know, when I turned 16, 17. So I don't know. It's definitely gonna, you know, depending on what the results are. I mean, like I said, I just think it just kind of depends on the you know, what if your kid turns out to get on the pole or, you know, become a doctor, I guess.
Real quick, I'm supposed to be moderating, but I want to throw this in. This is a code line I heard a long time ago. When a girl is born, she has all the value in the world. Her challenge is maintaining that virtue and that value as she ages and gets older. When a boy is born, he has zero value. His value increases with age based on his outputs, his resources, and his results. That's kind of how I approach, and I only have one daughter, right? But I mentor a lot of young men. I do not approach it the same. The accountability is the same. We say goals, you got goals you need to hit, but I'm not showing the type of grace that Shaq or Nelly talked about. If I did have a son and he wanted to come home because he was struggling with something, go ahead, save yourself some money. You're going to pay some reduced rent, but at least come home and stack your bread up and figure out a plan. We'll work on it together. And I'm going to jump back into moderating. And AK, I'm going to turn it over to you. How does masculinity, or should it differ when raising daughters versus raising sons?
I mean, so I'm father of a son, but I was raised with a sister and a brother, and I don't think it should change. I think it's like, I think your kid should be I mean, definitely we were raised a little bit hard. We grew up, you know, poor. So like, you know, things are different. And then like poor single mother, like that type of environment. So, you know, like there's things that are different, but like the world we're living in, like I would like I wanted a daughter because I like, you know, I had a great relationship with women my whole life, but like either way, as a child, I was gonna be happy. But you know, I feel like when you're raising a child, you need your child to be ready for the world. And in this world, you have to be able to live with yourself. You have to be able to live independently, and you have to be self-sufficient, like as a man or a woman, like just to increase your natural value. Like I know you wouldn't want your daughter being, like for me personally, I wouldn't want my daughter to ever have to depend on a man, just like I wouldn't want my son to ever have to depend on a woman. Like I need them to be able to sustain themselves so that no matter what may happen in their life, they're ready to hold their own. And like, you
AK,
know,
could you make the argument that, and we have white listeners too, by the way, but let's just talk about our community for a minute.
yeah,
Couldn't you argue that that's kind of the problem, that we're all kind of walking around acting like we don't need each other?
yo, that is the problem. Like we do, but like, you know, there's a balance of it that can definitely be taught, and that's either by how you view you know, both femininity, masculinity, and like also like how the children view your relationship with women and how they see you interact with women, and understand that, you know, just um I feel like, but yeah, there's a balance of it all, and there's a way to teach that balance. Luckily, like this is all still new to me. I am not in the trenches yet, like all the way. And I have one son, and like because honestly, raising a woman, like idealistically, like I think about the things that I would love to do. Like I want to reinforce this, but then the ills of the world on a black woman and like dealing with that, like there's some things that like I'm glad I don't have to think about. I have to worry about raising a black son, and that's, and for me, I'm teaching him to be masculine.
RJ, how does masculinity change when raising daughters versus sons, or does it?
Kind of. It does change a little bit. You change your approach. And the reason why I say that, now, do I have a daughter? No. But I kind of learned how to change my approach with my second child, because my second child has autism. And I have to, my first child, you know, I'm not going to ever say regular because no one's irregular. My oldest son did not have autism. My younger son did. The things that I did with him, being two boys, I couldn't. It didn't automatically, the template didn't transfer over. So I had to learn that. But now, I ain't gonna lie, I wanted to be a girl dad. And I know some of my friends kind of warn me, like, the second you see that girl, you're wrapped around, she's wrapped around her finger, you're wrapped around her finger for her entire life. So I understand that. But for me,
Thanks.
I was always taught this, and I still say this: the child who you give everything learns nothing, and when time calls upon it, wouldn't know how to do a damn thing. And I've always spat that out in my kids. And the way, and I feel like that we have to keep that going, and how you treat women, I feel I learned that from my father, and he reinforced that point, like we talked in the first point. Now, my new wife, her father wasn't in her life. He passed away when she was younger. So for me, I courted her, and women these days ain't used to courting.
Damn.
So it was more of a thing to where, I opened doors for her. She's like, what are you doing? Why are you doing it? What's wrong? I can do it. No, the thing about it is that when you don't have a father, women look at it a different way. And so with sons, we have to approach it a different way because we don't know where that clash is going to happen. It could, in a parallel universe, I could have a younger son that dates MC's daughter. And you're gonna see a clash of two things. Number one, you're gonna see a clash of parenting styles because two different men, and then you're gonna see a clash of how a young lady's raised and how a young man's raised and how it reflects on the parents. It's not an easy thing. We're not presented with an easy job, but we are lovingly forced to navigate it, and we don't look for rewards when we do it. So. Especially with Father's Day coming up, I'm saying that. But if you want to give me a good gift, you can. I'm just saying. But
yes. FYI, ladies, sex is great, but it doesn't count as a gift.
It's not a gift.
Go ahead and drop some neck, but that's not a gift. Go on ahead.
I want a tier 1 selfish act that you get nothing out of it but me. Happy Father's Day.
I lied. Drop some neck. ML, where do you stand on this?
Real quick, most women are terrible gift givers anyways, like in general. Like we went through this whole panel to say, what's the best gift a woman's ever got you? There might be one or two of us, but it's not going to be the majority of us.
TR, I'm gonna add a caveat to that.
A radio control Hot Wheels car when I was in college. That was the best gift I ever got from a woman.
Look, I'm gonna add a caveat to that. If she's really into you, she's gonna be a great damn gift giver. My wife knows I'm a Tampa Bay Buccaneers fan. She sends me to Tampa every year because she knows that's what I want. But I'm also easy to please. I know a lot of dudes get trash gifts though, ties, soap, stuff that you can just go and get anytime you want to. But I would argue if she's really into you, she's going to be a little bit more thoughtful in her gifts. But ML, you have the floor.
I got 5, 3 daughters, a son. I have a trans teenager, and it's rough. One of the things I try to do, I feel like you can learn as much from a bad parent as you can from a good parent. You know where we come from, MC. I learned a lot of what not to do from my parents. I didn't have much of a relationship with my father. He was there, but I just always thought he was an idiot. So I don't believe your parenting style has to change. It's like I said when we opened the show, is I try to teach my kids to be decent human beings, and the femininity, masculinity thing kind of falls where it falls in between those things. I teach my son to cook and do his own laundry. I teach my daughters how to change tires and things like that. Because when it comes to significant others, I want my children to be with who they're with because they want to be, not because they need to be. I don't want my son, I don't raise him to think you need to go out and make the money and pay the bills and then your woman can take care of the house, because as a young 20-something, you don't have all that figured out. And now you're in a relationship with this woman who feels like she's more your mother than your significant other. And that builds resentment. And I don't want my son to be stuck in a relationship with this bitter ass girl because he depends on her. And I want the same thing for my daughters. I want you to, I'm a better man than I probably would be if I had 5 sons versus a bunch of daughters, because I want them to have a good idea of what a good, decent man is, so that they don't bring home some dude I feel like I'm gonna have to put under. You know what I mean? So I don't do the double standard thing. I don't raise my daughters and sons differently. I thought I would, and the moment that it hit for me is, growing up, when your son's out there in his teenage years and he's chasing girls, and you like, yeah, the boy, go get him, and then you look at your daughter and be like, man, you lock that shit down till you get married. I didn't want my son around none of these no good girls either. I didn't feel that way. I wasn't looking for him to get out there and get a taste while trying to keep my daughters locked away. I didn't want any of my kids doing those things. So no, I don't think the parenting energy should change for boys versus girls. I want all my kids to know that they can always come back to me, and I'll always be there to support them, but I'll always make sure to reinforce I'm only trying to help you as much as you're trying to help yourself. If you're just being lazy, then yeah, I'm gonna put you on the clock and let you know it's cold out there, and I will put you out at some point. You can't just stay here forever and not do nothing. But if you trying and you working on positive things and doing positive things, I'm gonna always have your back. And as long as I'm above ground, my door is always open to any of my children. You can come home whenever you need to, because I love you unconditionally. I don't expect my son to go out there and just be a man, because, that's easier said than done. And I don't expect my daughters to just stay at home and be delicate flowers until Prince Charming shows up to take them off my hands either. I'm trying to raise productive members of society. I'm trying to raise quality people. I'm trying to raise decent people. If you can hit on those things, the masculine, feminine thing doesn't matter as much, because the rest of the world's going to do what it does and think what it thinks, no matter what. I want my kids to be confident in who they are as people, and all the rest of that shit is just noise and narratives.
And I'm sorry, like the economy is a little bit different. Like this whole thing about putting kids out, like, God, man, like that shit's tough. Like you can't live the way that like people were living back then, and like to force your child to like go from that part where they're still developing into just suffering, like like that's tough. So like yeah, I'll always have that room, but I want them to be able to work independently. But shit, I'll help you through it. Like I like what you said, ML. Like I'm there to work with you as you're being positive and trying to get through this stuff. But like you got to be trying.
All right, Cole.
So I think that all of us that have sons be wanting to have a girl too. I think that that's just a natural thing. But one of the things that I think that we do is I think we underestimate the level of growth that we have mentally and emotionally and spiritually from our parents. Like a lot of us, we made it through a lot of stuff, right? And came out on the other side as better people. And I think that we make the mistake of thinking that we had to go through that. So we think that our children have to go through that. And I think that for me, there are things that they're always going to have to learn and work for. They're gonna have but I think that we can instill hard work in them without having to throw them in the mud and be like, get out of the mud. There's so much work that has to be done simply as becoming a successful Black person. And so for me, I don't ever want my son to grow up. There's going to eventually be a time where he gets it, right? But as a child, I don't want him working for any material things. I want the material things that he wants. I do want to just give him all of those material things, but you have to work hard at school, which he's doing very well. He's supposed to be in first grade, but he's reading and doing math at a third grade level. I'm an advocate for that. Because for me, what is school except for getting that certification? I'll bribe you all the way through that. So that way I don't have to worry about you wanting to come back home. Unless, of course, you really do want to come back home because I need you to come back home. Because I'm not going to lie, I might be that selfish person. That's like, my house is too big. You and your family could be here and, save some bills. But I think that we can instill all of the characteristics that we want in our kids, especially like I can speak for us right here on this panel. None of our kids have to go through hardship in order to learn to work hard for the things that they want. We're all smart enough to create that culture that breeds that. So, and I don't have a girl. So, I raise my son, but I don't raise him to dominate because I think that that's something that's falsely, put on men. I raise him to try and empower everybody around him. Like, honestly, that makes the most powerful community, which ends up becoming the safest community. So that's kind of like what I do with him. I just don't want him to be working for a car. I don't want him to be working for a house. I want him to be working for a purpose and put all of your hard work there. We all know that eventually that you get rewarded with the cars and stuff that way.
Yeah, it'll just come.
Yeah, I think we got everybody, so I'm gonna just drop this. I fully expected to disagree with a couple of you on this topic. If you know me, I'm a social conservative, so I'm a gender roles guy, right? Um, my wife doesn't. My wife can set her own schedule because I can afford to give us the life that we have, and for me, I know for a fact she's happier that way. She's told me multiple times, and I like the fact that she is the biggest influence on my daughter, not like a daycare or school. So I think that I learned a lot from hearing y'all talk. And even Emma, I know you talked about your experiences versus mine, and we're on different ends of the spectrum, but I still learned something from those points you just made because you brought it home with ultimately being a productive person and being the best person you can be. And I think we can all agree on that. So I think that was a good way to end it. So we're gonna jump to the next one unless anyone has any closing comments, because we about an hour
My
in, we
kid
only got
is,
through two topics.
I think that what's something that you said briefly, but is very important, is something that I don't think that even with all the fluidity and freedom that everybody has, I think that we all understand that we are the best influence on our kids. The reason why he is where he is because he's being homeschooled as well. Like, I had him at home with a midwife or whatever. I don't trust the government for nothing. Eventually he can go into the schools because he'll be prepared. But I think that that's a facet of it that whether you're on the left or the right, if you could provide an environment where the person that you chose to build life with is going to be the best influence on your child, my son is proof that even though me and his mom aren't together and we've had our battles, she was the best influence on him and a much better influence than the school would have been. So yeah, I just wanted to give you your flowers because that was a dope comment, and I didn't want us to brush over it.
No doubt, no doubt. I know we're getting close to the end point. We have three more topics. TR, I know you mentioned the one that you want to jump to. Let's go ahead and I've got two semi-political topics too, but let's go ahead and jump to Stepfathers. And I will share my screen again. Bear with me, folks.
I'll say this much: like having a daughter, there have been a couple times where I almost went to jail.
Man, that's my biggest fear. I'm gonna crash out over somebody saying or do something crazy.
Crash out is real.
How old?
And I definitely
My
will.
daughter, she's going to be 18 this year.
Okay, so you've been through it all.
Oh man, you would even.
Ah.
That might be a whole nother conversation though. But I will say this: she pulled it together, and we got some. We're trying to get her scholarship for volleyball. So it can have its ups and downs, but just trying to get her to college.
All right, and here's our next video to lead us in, fellas.
Off the table, I just want to know what benefit would I get for being a stepfather? Would a man be wrong for asking a woman that?
I think it's a loaded question because why are you asking me that? I feel like as a man, you should know if you're coming into a relationship where there's children involved, I don't think that's an appropriate question to ask in terms of what's the benefit that I get for being a stepfather to your children. Like, that doesn't even sound right to me.
No?
Because I'm going to look at you like you're crazy.
Okay.
Because I feel like if you know that I have children, you should already start programming your mind to think, okay, I'm going to be around. I'm going to be around her children.
Okay.
My question is, why should I want you around? What benefits do we get from having you around? So that's what I would need to know. Like, what are my children going to see in you? What are my children going to learn from you? Okay. Those are the questions. So if you're saying what benefit do you have from being a stepfather to my children, I'm going to ask you, why are you even asking that question?
Okay.
So, fellas, you heard the video. So the question is, I kind of typed out something different, but let's pivot from that question a little bit. Is it fair to ask a woman with kids, what's the benefit of me being a stepfather to your kids? And was it fair for her to ask the counter question that she had about how her kids can learn from you? We'll start with you, RJ. You're on mute. Oh.
First of all, she's Miss Red Flag. First of all, that right there is, brother, run, seek shelter, emotional shelter, get a restraining order, just get it all done, because that's what she is. First of all, when you come into a relationship with a woman that does have kids, first of all, stepfathers are crucial. Stepfathers are crucial, and they deserve as much respect as the real father, because they're taking on a role where they really don't have an equal standing, because the woman can easily say, well, you're not his daddy, but she still wants a paycheck. But the thing about it is that woman right there, oh Lord, it's the reason why these women are single, because they constantly expect, they're not dating you, they're giving you a panel interview with one person, because when you come into this relationship, and what do you got, and what do you this, that, and other, what do we have? Because first of all, and I think we lose this as married men, and I was previously married for 20 plus years. We lose the fact that we started off as just the two of us. Then children come in, and then we end up just being their parents. So when that dynamic is broken, and then now there's the possibility of somebody stepping in, and I almost experienced that, it's a bitter pill to swallow. But you have to be in the mindset of going like, okay, if this person is willing to step in and be respectful of the space, then that's great. Do it for the children. Do it for the children, and make it work. But these women that have, little Stub, Squid, and all the other, she got 4 kids, 5 different daddies. Yeah, I said it. 4 kids, 5 different daddies. You're in it for a world of hurt. But this, oh my God, bro, man, if you are, I'm gonna say this to y'all listen to it. If you are single and you are hearing my words, run. It's not worth it. It looks, she can be fine. I mean, she can be Halle Berry fine. Run. I mean, because Halle Berry can turn into hella scary really quickly. Run. That's all I'm going to say. I'm going to mute myself. I'm going to mute myself.
So before I pass the mic, I just want to say I'm familiar with an individual, makes quite a good living, works for Disney, great salary, was dating a woman with 3 children. He told her, they were engaged in conversations, and he told her, look, I will take your kids. They can have my last name. They can come under my authority, but I need you to take your children's father off for child support. We don't need his money. Y'all good. I got you. She walked away. She wanted to keep the child support, and she walked away from her engagement. I'm just throwing that out there to give you a little bit of a different mindset. AK, I'm going to give you the mic next. Is being a stepfather a good deal in 2025? And were those questions from the male side fair to ask?
That's fucking wild, man.
Quick question: is anybody a stepfather? I don't think anybody's a stepfather here.
No.
I'm trying to be. They all got kids nowadays, and I got a kid too. I'm at the end of the day, we're looking for the same thing because technically, I'm not dealing with no woman that's not a good mother either. Like I got a son, and to be honest, for as much as me and his mom aren't together, and I don't get nothing from her, you still got to match her energy as far as my counterpart in the house. So I don't think that, to be honest with you, that woman, her red flag was her energy. And I don't even think that a lot of people are mature enough or really are supposed to be in that situation. Like, I think that it takes a certain type of person to really make a situation like that work. But the conversation is real. It just shouldn't have been like how
Let me
they
ask you this to put a wrench in the conversation a little bit. I'm gonna switch the
like
question up a little
wrenches.
bit. Would you give more grace to a woman who had 3 kids from one guy versus 3 from 3 different guys, or are you approaching it the same?
All right, really bear with me, right? Bear with me. Stop laughing, AK. Stop laughing at me. So I believe truly that we're all a summation of our choices. Some of us made some bad choices, some of us made more bad choices than others. And usually, when you put yourself into certain spaces, you're not going to run into people that made certain choices. So for me, I don't really know. I think it really depends on the woman, it really depends on the situation, and it depends on how she can make me feel about our future. Like I because like at the end of the day, everybody has kids nowadays. If you want somebody without kids, they got to be like 20 or something like that. Like it's really hard to find somebody that doesn't have kids. But then look at me, like, what am I doing looking for somebody that doesn't have kids? I got a kid. So, like it's tough. Yeah, I don't really think that there's any real easy answer to it. I just think that the more mature people there are in the situation, the better the situation will be. Like there'll be you, your significant other, her, and possibly her significant other. So if you can get all 4 people actually being mature and just kind of doing better for themselves and doing better for the kids, then it'll be a good situation. But anybody could be a monkey wrench. And my bad for
Man,
stealing your turn, though.
no, it was
But
AK's turn.
yeah,
No, you're good. I mean,
Just real quick, it's like getting all 4 people. No, the answer is hell no, because it's not going to work. Because somebody's going to be pissed off. Like I've been through that. I've been a stepdaddy way too many dumbass times because I thought being a stepdad would be okay because I had kids young. So I thought it'd be okay when I was in my 20s. Nope, it's never okay. That's
yeah, that's basically that's where I'm at, man. Like
it's not a good benefit.
I understand the situations where like it when that's like the pond you're in, like especially if you're dating and that's the pool it is. I understand that, but like more so if you don't have children and you go in as a stepfather, I think you are being like you're definitely getting robbed of fatherhood, like because no way a woman's going to trust you like as much because you don't have a kid, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about, and then it's their child and their rules, like so like if you're going to stepfatherhood, like if you have a child it definitely makes more sense, but still at the end of the day like there's a dynamic there that like like you go into every relationship thinking everything's gonna go well and things are gonna work out, but once the thing severs and it happens, that whole dynamic is something that you can't control. And like sometimes depending on the woman, like they will do whatever it takes to make shit tough for you. And like and that can be destroying your relationship with that you built with this kid who's not yours.
Yeah.
And going into it and knowing that that is at risk, like as you're talking, I mean, you're not like you got to be actually like fucking crazy to be thinking about that every time you're talking about it. But like it's something that you do have to consciously think about. So it's not a great deal, but situationally it can be like, you know, say like things happen a different way. You know, I mean, sometimes it's like this. Like the guy was a piece of shit. She wants nothing to do with him, but she wants you to be there for this kid, and you're in their life, and you built this relationship, and it can work out. And that's why like, you know, people aren't afraid of doing it. But you know, more often than not, it will always be that situation where it's not your child, dude.
Yeah, I'll say this much too is because MC brought up a good point that, you know, those are things that I've never considered, or just when I've dated women that had kids, and most of the time they've had boys. So I think only one person that I dated had a girl, but the majority of them had boys. And so they're a single mom, and generally the father wasn't involved. And so I come in there and I'm trying to, you know, help raise her son. They will resent you. Like raising a son is or helping her raise her son, it's the worst. They're not going to
Boys
listen to
test
you.
too, TR. Boys naturally test limits.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Boys going to shit test you. She's going to shit test you. The girl that I was just recently dating, her son was actually pretty cool. Like we got along very well. We had similar interests. He played video games, and you know I played video games with him as well too. He was cool as shit. The mom got jealous of our relationship. We were having. I was like, "What are you mad about? What are you really mad about?" And he's like, "I just don't like him. You know, having more of a friendliness with you because he doesn't talk to me that way, or he doesn't work with me, or he doesn't like have fun with me, like playing sports and football, like because you're a girl, you're his mom, he's not going to do any of those things with you.
You're not a man.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. And like I said, their father's not around, and so again, I don't know how it is that I've dated mainly women that only had boys, but I've noticed that pattern. And my thing is, if I could do it all over again, I would have like not dated them, because it just creates more problems. It creates more headache though, because you're coming in trying to help and bring balance and, like get rid of the chaos. They just go back to the chaos. They just want to do things that they want to do it their way. And if you come in there with common sense, they're going to be like, no, they're going to buck. Like the kid's going to buck, and then she's going to buck. Like it's almost impossible to be the winner in that situation, especially nowadays, because if you try to, say you're a stepdad, I mean, everybody laughs at you. Like it's no longer a, badge of honor like it used to be, because in the old days, if a woman, lost her husband, she's going to have to like just turn things around, be the best wife ever, try to find that man. But nowadays they don't even think about doing any of that stuff. They're just like, hey, what can you do what can you bring to our family? That's just asinine.
And then we're going to let you bring this one home.
Oh, man. It's a funny topic. In my younger days, I absolutely would not date a single mom, because when it comes to the discipline side, she ain't never going to let you discipline her kid like you would discipline your kid. I don't have time for that. Or for me, it was always the worry of I met a few women that seemed like they were willing to put me being in their life ahead of parenting their child, and I can't respect that. So go on somewhere, kick rocks, lady. But as I'm divorced from my first wife. I've got 5 kids. I got 4 baby mamas, and before I had kids, I used to like, man, how you do that? I'm judging people, but as I got older and life happened, I was like, okay, I see how you could get in this situation without being the worst person. But I've had to deal with the stepdad thing with my kids, and I make it easy on you as a stepdad because I didn't have children with no good women, so we've always been able to co-parent. We can do a single birthday party for all the kids. They can show up with their man, I can show up with my woman. My kids have always seen unity between their parents, even though we're not together. We're not playing games and I'm gonna do this over here and you that over there. We can celebrate holidays and get along good. So when the stepdad comes in, I have given all the men that have come and gone in my ex's lives the same speech when I first meet them. I don't care about your relationship with my ex. I'm not that type of dude. I'm not jealous. I'm not in her business. But 2 things I need you to understand. Don't put your hands on my baby mama. Don't put your hands on my kids.
Yeah, that's the shit right there.
Good, yeah, as long as that's good, we ain't got no problem. And I never had an issue saying that because I had to let the guy know, look, I'm not trying to be the tough guy or start nothing. I'm just being honest so you and I can start on a level playing field and know what the expectations are. You know, I'm happy for you and her. I understand things happen in relationships. Y'all gonna argue, y'all gonna fight, but just
Yeah,
don't
man,
put
I
your
got a question for you based on that last statement you made, though. So let's say you had that conversation with him, and his response is, "Don't tell me what to do in my house. This is my house." How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I'm the captain now.
You know what? I had something like that once, and again, I have a good relationship with my baby mama. So my response was to sit on the couch and put my feet on the coffee table and ask my baby mama to go get me something to drink while he's sitting there looking confused. After the fact, she told me he didn't like that, and I told her I don't care because he could be here today, gone tomorrow. I'm gonna be around forever. And the fact that he wanted to quietly complain to her but smile in my face let me know everything I needed to know about him.
Oh yeah, that's
You know?
100%.
Yeah, so we don't have to, it don't have to get ugly, but it can. And that's all it is for me. So I've dealt with some decent stepdads in my kids' lives. My ex-wife, she had a man, they was together for 10 years before they eventually split. And the two kids I have with her, they grew up with him and me. And over time, they were willing to refer to him as stepdad because he kind of earned that by being a decent man and being a good influence in their life. And it's like my current wife, my 16-year-old calls her stepmom. She's known him almost his entire life, you know, and so they have that bond and they have that rapport because she's always respected the actual mother and kind of stayed in her lane, so to speak, but been a positive influence in the kid's life. It's a hard balance. Being a stepdad or a step parent in general is all dependent upon the mother and, you know, the dad that's no longer in the picture. You know, if you can all be adults and be mature, it's a beautiful thing. You know, I got a lot of friends and coworkers that are like, dude, say what? You don't have to pay child support and you don't have to this. I was like, well, I didn't have accidental babies. All of my kids are from long-term relationships, you know, with women that work. Ain't no food stamps, ain't no EBT, ain't no government assistance. You know, we're all decent people. The relationship just didn't work. So it makes it easy for stepdad or stepmom to come into the picture and just be part of a functioning unit. And I don't want to toot my own horn, but I feel like I'm the driving force behind that. You know, look, this is what it is. This is
Yeah,
how
put
it's
that
going to
back
be.
up. And I think somebody just
Let's
asked,
go.
one of the listeners just asked a question of you.
I think it might have been Cope for Cope though.
Oh, that might have been for Cope. Okay, we'll say this is for you or Cope. Did the stepfather grow up watching his parents date other people? No judgment, I don't think. But are you following preset protocol, or is this totally new, familiar ground to tread?
Nah, for me, this is completely new. Both of my parents were together. So I think and my parents are still together today. So it's not even so much a thing of like wanting to do it. You know, it wasn't my decision. It was something that I was young enough to roll with, like whatever. But it wasn't my decision to raise a child as a single father. You know, and so it's not my desire to raise him as a single father. And so I also understand that, you know, I'm in the same position as a lot of these single moms, you know, and I'm actually in a decent position because I don't feel like my son's mom would ever interfere in any relationship that I have. Like, I don't feel like she wants me or wants to like take me from anybody or anything. Like, we're cool where we are. So yeah, no, it's definitely not something I've never seen my parents date. Like my parents were together as far as I've known consciousness of them being, you know, like they've been together. So this is, which is crazy to me. All of my brothers, none of us are with our kids' mothers. And, you know, I don't know how that happened like that. Never did.
Appreciate that. We're going to transition to the next topic, ML. Since I kind of cut you off, I'm going to let you go first on this one, but we're going to shift a little bit into politics, fellas. The Democrats are investing $20 million to try to win back the male vote. We're going to lead this in with a video, though. screen. Alrighty.
The Democratic Party is destroyed. They are now spending 20 million of our tax dollars to learn how to speak.
Electoral drubbing. The Democratic Party appears to still be in fact-finding mode. The New York Times reports that party donors and strategists have been gathering at luxury hotels to discuss how to win back working-class voters. And they're spending $20 million on an effort to try to figure out how to speak to young men. Quote, "It is codenamed SAM, short for Speaking with American Men, a strategic plan, and promises investment to study the syntax, language, and content that gains attention and virality in these spaces."
Party plan to avoid being swept in every battleground state again by spending $20 million to study how to speak to American men.
I read that. They want to spend money to learn how to talk. That's fake. You don't want to be fake. You shouldn't have to hire consultants to.
But as always, pop up in the middle.
Listen, I want to grab the mic. I want to grab the mic before we even answer a question. Yeah, we should just skip it because I feel a little.
Hold on. Let me. I'll come to you right after the video. I'll come to you right after the video.
Exactly right. If you have to spend $20 million.
All right, MC.
Oh. Actually, you know what? Actually, let's take a break. We'll play the rest of the video later. Let's bring it on back. All right. Cope has grabbed the mic, and then we're going to come to ML. Go ahead, Cope.
See, because for the longest time, like everybody telling black men to be fucking vulnerable and stuff. And I'm speaking about black men because I am a black man. Other men probably have the other problem, but they also have their advocates. But people tell us to be vulnerable and then speak up and whatnot. And then, we do that shit and then it kind of gets shut down. And then we actually see after all of the attacks because of the failures of the Democratic Party, they are literally spending $20 million in an attempt to try and garner votes. But what they're really saying to you is, one, they have no idea how to speak to men. So there's absolutely no way possible, shape, or form that they ever gave a fuck about men in the first place in their campaign. Our vote was only due to entitlement because they said so, and that was it. And then for us to actually say that, we get vilified. We get called Republicans when we speak about the failures. And now they're literally sitting here telling me that they're going to spend $20 million to learn how to speak to men? Are we that fucked as a people? Because honestly, I'm about to finish my bachelor's in communications, and I need a piece of that.
I'm hurt. 20 million is an insult. Like,
hold on, AK. Before you go, let me let ML take the mic.
Man, I hate politics. I hate politicians. I hate them all on both sides. I think 100%. Democrats they come across so inept and weak and stupid. And while I feel most of us as people, most decent people, you're not really too far left or too far right. We're somewhere in the middle. But again, internet, social media, everything is so exaggerated and extreme now. I think it's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You guys spend $20 million to learn how to talk to men. Y'all talk for a living. You show up every 4 years and you talk your ass off to get people's votes, and then we don't hear from you for the rest of the time. It's nonsense. I want to do away with all of them. I'm not a proponent of the two-party system. I think we're given two choices, and it's kind of a lesser of two evil things for me most of the time. It's a headache, and it's one of the hardest things to talk about with people in general. And I think that's a big part. We can't have civil discussions. Everybody's either in an echo chamber or they're at each other's throats. You can't agree to disagree about shit.
I'm a man.
And it's such a headache. But I think it's just sad and pathetic that, $20 million, give me $5 million and we could talk for about an hour. There you go. And problem solved, Democrats. You can do what you want with the other 15. Go find 4 other people to give $5 million to, and hey, we all good. Just what are we doing here? It's nonsense.
Yeah. AK, I'm gonna come to you next, but before I do, I just want to throw out a little bit of extra ammo here. So The most popular podcast in the world right now, no question, was Joe Rogan. And in my opinion, Joe Rogan was a big part in why Donald Trump won. Now, let's keep in mind, Joe Rogan endorsed Bernie Sanders back in the day before Hillary was pushed to the front of the ticket. They pushed him out. They called him a conspiracy theorist. They called him misogynistic, everything above the sun. That's number one. Number two, CNN, and I'll never forget this. The night before the last election, they ran a segment. It was an 8-minute segment. It was hosted by Dana Bash and a couple other people. It was called The New Masculinity. And they were talking about the Democrats and what masculinity looks like. Here's the problem with that. There were no men in that discussion. There were no men mentioned except for Cory Booker, who was mentioned the last 2 minutes of the segment. That's another thing. And then number three, you have people like AOC and other prominent Democrats who essentially look down on gamers as childish and immature, where this $20 million plan includes ads in video games and in YouTube spaces. They completely ignored the podcast circuit. They called it fake news. And Valuetainment, the PBD show, is now the second second watched news station in the United States. I think Fox News was number one, but you have a podcast on YouTube that was the number 2 source for news. So I'm just putting a little extra context in there. AK, floor is yours.
I mean, I'm really just gonna keep it brief. Like honestly, Democrats are weird. Fucking conservatives are weird. These guys are losers. Like niggas are just weird. Like honestly, $20 million. That's in the world we're living in, especially with knowing how much money goes around in politics. That's fucking
Trump change.
Indeed. RJ.
Okay. That's pretty pathetic. That's really pathetic. Let's just go ahead and call a spade a spade. Because here's the thing. For the longest, they expected the Democrats to just fall in line. You're going to vote straight. I'm a Democrat. Vote straight ticket. And that's, and they had no worth in that. Black folks are going to vote. They're going to be Democrats. They're going to vote Democrat. And that's how it's going to be. Now, this last election really showed, when it was before Kamala jumped in, we were called so many names because, you ain't black if you don't vote Democrat. And that came from a white man. That came from Joe Biden. Seriously. Then what else? We got called a host of different names, monoliths. Yeah, there we go. There's the other one. We're monolithic and this, that, and other, when we're really drastically different from that. What ended up happening is the respect of the black vote was taken away, we gave it away. We just became the quid pro quo Negro, and that's how it was. And they just kind of figured out, like, your vote's not important. We need to focus on Hispanic vote. We need to focus on LGBTQ issues. We need to focus. They had very narrow focus. So now they're trying to win over the world, and I'm not impressed by it. I'm not impressed by watching Maxine Waters looking like an old retired Avon salesman walk up to a door to get it shut in her face for political theater. That's all the Democrats are now. So I call myself lovingly a middle grounder. Do I agree with Trump? No, he's a sick, psychopathic son of a bitch. But there are topics that the Republican Party have that I agree with, not many. But as a core Democrat, you kind of get frustrated because they're doing nothing. It's like, wipe the slate clean. It's almost like we need to look at the Democratic Party as in we need to purge them before we worry about the Republicans. Because the two biggest words we need are term limits, and that's not going to happen. So by everybody just sitting on their hands, sitting on their ass, not voting, doing this, that, and the other, this is why we're here. I'm going to draw a little heat for this one. I'm still fuming over watching James Clyburn hold a white baby talking about these are our future. Maxine Waters talking about we need to defend these Hispanic people of this, that, and other. They lost all respect for us. So I can see why people said, I ain't voting. I did vote. We basically, as a Democrat, got brain dead Biden, which we all knew he was compromised. And people, I'm riding with Biden. We're riding with Biden. And we end up riding a train off a cliff. We end up getting what I call Vice President Giggles, Kamala Harris, too late into the fray when it didn't do us any good. It's almost like it was a hit job. Like, people go like, oh man, we love Barack. I like Barack from the sense of saying we got a black president, but when you break it down, he really didn't do a lot of shit for us. He really didn't. He pushed two agendas and we weren't either one of them. So now we're here. You get AOC, who, for her to talk down about gamers is classic when she was nothing more than a Hooters barmaid half of her life before getting into politics. So hypocrite there. And she was a strong force, big green deal. And all of a sudden they shut her up. You can't find her. She's crickets. And then you look at all these prominent Democrats who either just like, I'm just going to be quiet so I can keep getting voted into Congress or the Senate. And we keep getting these asses. And I hate to say it like that. I met Cory Booker. When he was dating Rosario Dawson. Me and my now wife met him. And he was comical. He literally was comical. I couldn't take him serious in how he delivers things. So everybody's saying, oh, the greatest thing they can say, well, he went ahead and he gave a filibuster speech. Great. So we know you can hold your bodily fluids and you can literally not take a crap for 25 hours. Mm-hmm. Congratulations. The Democrats are just the party.
Crap came out of his mouth.
Yeah. It's the party of stunts, political theater at its best. And that's why we're in this situation. I'm currently in California, and this is a joke. I'm like, we are so far from any political coming together that don't even worry about the Republican Party. We need to worry about our own shit because we gave it away. It was given away for pennies on the dollar, where it was more valuable to say, we got people like there's a man named Charleston White said, I would rather be a slave than vote for a black woman or whatever color Kamala was or whatever flavor of the week she was.
Yeah, he was wild for that.
So it's just like, man, you don't get me started. I do too much politics, but it's a mess. And unfortunately now, how do we navigate through this mess? Because they've now elected a president who told people pretty damn clearly, you won't have to worry about voting after this election.
I do want to call out. I do want to call out. They went all in on the before we go back to before we go to TR, because I know you gonna say something. Trump won more than a third of the Latino vote, despite everything that the Dems were doing. So they didn't get the dividends they thought they were going to get. They had a bad strategy, including the isolation of men. But TR, go. I know you itching at the trigger finger. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, I agree with most of what everyone's been saying. The Democrats spending this $20 million, it's just a scam. They're not going to spend $20 million to listen to men. They're not going to spend $20 million to, study men or try to get their insights. They try to tell us that Doug Pim Imhoff was the, pinnacle of masculinity. They try to say, or Tim Walz. They try to say these two white men are one is who-ish, but they try to say these two men were the ones that black men, Latino men, and every other man should be following and should be listening to. So they got a way bigger problem, and spending this $20 million is just to line the pockets of everyone else involved. When 2028 comes here, I'm going to tell you right now, the candidates are going to be led by Kamala Harris. I think she might get back in the fray, but it'll either be a Jasmine Crockett or AOC. Any man in the Democratic Party is not going to get on the ticket. That's done. They're going to put another woman back on the ticket to go against JD Vance. I'm pretty sure JD Vance is going to get the ticket on the Republican side. And so they're going to run this thing again. And they know that black men, the black community, for the most part, they know they're already going to vote Democrat. So if they were going to use this $20 million, it's not going to be for black men or the black community. It's going to be for maybe the Latino community. Because I will say that was kind of surprising to see the majority of Latino men and then also women, following their men, even though the Democrats told Michelle Obama specifically told women not to follow their men to the voting polls to vote their own way or vote who they want, and they all voted Republican.
She said, "Don't even talk about it with your husbands. Just do it." She was literally trying to put a split in marriages.
Yeah, she said a lot of things. So I will say there were about 20 million votes that didn't show up to the polls that showed up for Biden back in 2020. So maybe there is an opportunity there. But as for like study men or whatever, this is just what they do just to line the pockets up for people in their party. That's all it is.
Indeed. We have one more topic, fellas. I appreciate y'all. Wait, did we get it? Yeah, ML went first or third. Did I miss anybody? No, we got everybody.
Oh, okay.
Everybody. All right, we got one more topic. I appreciate y'all hanging and going over. We're going to go ahead and kick that off now. Simone Biles versus Riley Gaines and transgenders in women's sports. Where are you? Okay.
I thought we were supposed to stay away from this.
Oh, no. You just got to you got to talk about it strategically.
Simone Biles is speaking out against former U.S. swimmer Riley Gaines for her recent anti-trans sports comments. On June 6th, Riley reshared a...
All right, TR, we're going to kick this off with you. After I close this window. First of all, as men, let me throw the question out here. As men, do we stay out of this? Do we engage in this? Where do you stand on all of this? TR, we'll start with you.
I mean, so Simone did give a half-hearted apology, but she was completely in the wrong on this, and mainly because, like, I've already had a conversation with my daughter. I told her that if there is a boy, regardless of whatever he identifies, that plays, volleyball, which it hasn't happened where I'm at, but it's happened in other states, is that I'll just pull her off because it's a different sport, especially with the nets being very low. There was a girl that was concussed by a trans boy or kid that, they just blasted the ball at her. And so there's been a couple conversations like this, but Simone Biles going after Riley was just out of left field. And I know it's historically been called Pride Month, but it's just weird that she came out and just started defending defending the baseball player that they won a championship with. Honestly, the fathers that allowed their daughters to play, they should have pulled them off the field. They shouldn't have been playing. Like, I know a lot of parents sometimes will be okay with, like, well, my kid this, my kid that, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's fine. But for the players that have to play against that kid, they should have pulled them off. They shouldn't be playing, let them play. And I know it was a championship game, probably would have sucked just to lose a championship, but it's an unfair advantage. We don't let men that want to just, women don't jump into men's sports just because they know the differences in, size and abilities. But Simone, she caught a lot of flack for this, which is, I was kind of surprised by that. But for the most part, it was kind of deserved, like, because she went out of her way to try to defend this nonsense. And there really is nothing, she shouldn't have been defending it. It's those girls lost out, and you lose out on scholarships, you lose out on, medals. And I know some people might say that's not a big thing. Yes, it is. If you're trying to put your kid through college, all that stuff matters. And if you're giving out scholarship to trans kids, then are you going to start asking the girls if they're okay with it, if they're okay with being in the same locker room and everything? Like, nobody wants to have that question. I think it's not a big deal, but it really is a big deal. And I'm glad that it's kind of subsided just because of the whole LA thing that's been going on. But it was a very weird interaction with Simone Biles, though. But still the best gymnast, but she just needs to shut up and flip. That's all it is.
So I'm gonna make a real quick point, and I'm gonna drop back off. It's always fascinating to me when stories like this come up. It's never the other way around. It's never a woman who's, I don't even know the proper terminology to use, a woman who's transitioning or identifies as a man trying to compete in the men's leagues. Like, we never hear those stories. And in my opinion, the reason why you never hear those stories is because they aren't good enough to compete at that level. And I think that means something. But I'll just leave it at that. ML, we'll give you the mic next.
I want to steal the mic. I'm sorry, my turn. Let me catch this. Let me catch my 60 on this one. Yeah, I know, I'm brother. You have more, matter of fact. Yeah, you go first. I'll go behind you because you have more right to chime in first on this one. So I'll back down.
I have a transgender teenager that was born my daughter, transitioned to my son. In the general scheme of life, I feel like trans people have every right to exist. You do whatever you want that makes you happy in this world. As long as you ain't committing crimes or hurting nobody, I'm happy for you. I feel like society tries to force it down the rest of our throats. I mean, I'm happy for you, do your thing, but I don't have to celebrate it. Why can't you just exist in your world and I exist in mine, and we all get along and again be decent human beings? We don't have to celebrate everybody else's choices. I think that's where the left goes a little too far with that. But bringing it back to the sports things, while I'm all for transgender people and their rights, there has to be some give and take. There has to be some sacrifices, and there just should not, under any circumstances, be men transitioning to women and then being allowed to play sports with my daughter. I don't agree with that. The Leah Thomas, the swimmer thing, you was a below average male swimmer. You grew your hair, transitioned, and now you out here shattering records. It's ridiculous. And you see this there was a guy transitioned to a woman and started breaking all these women's weightlifting records. I think it's kind of perverse. I think it's sad, and I'm not afraid to say it. If people want to cancel me or whatever, hey, come get it. I don't care. I don't want men competing on the same playing field as my daughter. It's BS. It's total BS. And parents should take their kids off the field. You should put a stop to that. This is nonsense. And people like Simone Biles, it's a problem with the left. It's so much chaos. Everybody can't be what they want. Everybody can't have their own damn space. Everybody can't just run wild. The world don't work like that. There's got to be some rules. There's got to be some order. There's got to be some balance. And I don't want to sound like a hater or like I'm intolerant of transgender people, because I'm not, but I draw the line at the sports things. Ain't gonna be no little boy with a wig on slamming volleyballs on my daughter's head, hitting home runs, and especially in physical sports like fighting. You had the MMA fighter, the Fallon Fox. She's out here breaking other women's orbital bones and stuff, and nobody sees a problem with that because she identifies as a woman. I'm like, this is nonsense. This is craziness. I think it's stupid. I think it's disgusting. I'll say it with my whole chest, and I don't care how society views me for it. That's our problem, is we can't take a definitive stance on nothing. We want to pussyfoot around everything. We want to spare everybody's feelings. No one is entitled to go through their life without being offended, because everybody's different. You got different opinions. You got different thoughts. Bad things are going to happen. And if you don't like it, stay in the house. But I can't sit in the crowd and watch that happen. They would have to throw me out. Like, what are we doing? Why is he out there? And if I met him anywhere other than in the sports arena, I'm going to call you she. I'm going to acknowledge your pronouns. I'm going to respect who you are. But as soon as we step on the sports field, like, what's he doing here? It is what it is. I'm sorry.
ML, just a quick question. So given that you do have a trans teenager and the stance that you just have, does that create any conflict when y'all have those conversations?
No, he and I have talked. I have some trans coworkers, and I meet trans people in life, and I've kind of asked them on their perspective to help me be better at talking to my child. I have a really good rapport with all my children. They all know they can come and talk to me about anything. That's one of the blessings I've had in fatherhood, is they're willing to talk to me about things. So me and my trans son, we don't have any issues. He understands where I'm coming from on certain things. We've talked about the sports thing, and he doesn't disagree either. He doesn't necessarily think it's fair. But again, like you said, you don't see women transition to men and jump out there like that. Trans men just kind of fade into the background and blend in. They want to be regular people. It's the trans women, these men that transition to women, and they want to be the loudest thing in the room. You don't have this problem going the other way with the trans community. So my son, he's real chill. He's real laid back. And we talk about this a lot because he's worried about society and how the world views him. And I told him, I'll drop a motherfucker where they stand over you. Pardon my language, but at the same time, I still have certain thoughts and feelings. With him, it started early on, and I just let him know, wow, look, I don't fully understand the whole trans thing, but I love you unconditionally. So I don't care. You can identify as a banana. It ain't going to change the way I feel about you. And I will walk this path with you, and I will learn as much as I can so I can be as supportive as I can. And that's all I can do as a father. But I still have thoughts and opinions on certain things that aren't going to change just because I love you, looking at the bigger picture. So no, we don't have any friction over these type of things, and we can agree to disagree on something. We happen to agree on the sports thing though, so it's all good.
Okay, you got it.
Yeah, and that's the reason why I yielded to ML, because he definitely had more ground and the right to speak first on that topic. I mean, speaking just from a physical standpoint, men are physically stronger than women. I don't care the hormones you take. I don't care what supplements you take. A woman can trans to a boy, and that's fine. But when you just strip away everything and you're looking at pure physical traits, and it's not the same. It's not the same. And I don't agree with it. I mean, I remember there was this one female who trans boxer took towards male, and she got her ass beat. I mean, that's just really what ended up happening was. And
Iman Khalif was her name. I just dropped it in the chat.
Oh, did you? Oh, okay, yeah. Because I saw that one. I was like, don't do that.
Yeah,
she was crushing those women in the Olympics. She was crushing them.
Yeah, and that's the thing about it is it's so no, I don't feel like it's the same thing. I still follow ML with this school of thought. I'm like, you can do whatever you want to, but you don't have the right to force it upon me. You know, if I accidentally misgender a person, because we had a person, I found out today, the person who I went to go to the barbershop was a trans person and messed up not this cut, but a previous cut and whatnot. And they were like, oh, is it because it's a trans person? I said, I don't give a shit about you being trans. You're a shitty barber. I mean, point blank, period. I don't care what gender you are. You suck. I don't care. Penis, vagina, whatever, nipples, I don't care. Whatever. No, you just purely suck. But the thing about it is, we talk about $20 million and all this for learning people. I would rather spend time not even worrying about the transgender issue. I'm still fighting to get a black couple in a commercial. I'm like, damn, we can't. I mean, everywhere you turn the commercial, it's the black man and it's a white woman, black man and an Asian woman. Because, you know, everybody. So I'm turning this one. But that's where I'm fighting about. You know, we can't even get the black families a dynamic together unless it's a bad product. If it's an AIDS product, if it's like for syphilis, gonorrhea, herpes, whatever, they'll throw black people in the front of that book, you know, like, hey, and then they want to do all that and they put us in the forefront. I'm fighting to see, why can't I see MC and his wife in a commercial, a loving black couple advertise the product? That's where my fight is. If you want to be trans in sport, just know that I don't support that. But I do support you. Like I tell everybody, I give everybody the respect of God until you show me you're a devil. I tell people that daily. So, you know, and that's how I look at it. But come on. I mean, there's more things to fight about. Sports, stay out. Sorry, get your own league. Because Leah Thomas, yeah, that was a mess. And it was. And Simone Biles and TR, you're right. She was wrong from the get. I think she just wanted some publicity and she needed it's clout week. And she wanted to rile her base to go after. I'm like, you look stupid. You did. You look like a pint.
Did anybody find it ironic when she clapped back at Riley? She said, pick on somebody your own size who more than likely to be a dude.
Yeah. So she played that card. Yeah. And then she throws it at her by saying, and that's more like a man. So I'm like, you know, hey, reverse toxic femininity right there. I mean, it's like femme on femme crime. That's what it really is. Yeah. I mean, you went against Republic Karen of the sports world, you know, and it just didn't work. And like I say, I'll argue a point on both sides, but she was wrong from the get. Like, I'm not gonna, like I say, I don't watch a movie just because it's black. I don't dance because there's just music playing, and I'm not gonna agree with you because we share pigment together. It doesn't work that way. With that,
Let me before I pass the mic again, let me just explain why all of this confuses me. I talked about me being a gender roast guy earlier, right? One thing I've learned, particularly with women, when it comes to conflict, they slide right into that. They like, let's say a woman is getting hostile with you and talking crazy to you. The expectation is we're supposed to show them a little bit more grace than we would a fellow man, right? Like if a guy is being disrespectful compared to a woman, you're probably gonna handle it differently. But I've noticed that these women that get hostile with you and start talking crazy to you, as soon as you return that energy right back to them, then they want to slide into that feminine role. Somebody please come protect me. So when it comes to these gender and these role issues, it's all just one big confusing thing to me. I don't think it's gray. I think it's black and white. On that note, AK, I didn't already hit you up. So
Hey, MC,
Well, no, yeah, well, that's why, like, on shit like
AK,
this,
hold on.
Oh,
We got a question for ML. If you want to answer it, ML, you don't have to.
No, it doesn't. Not at all. My transgender child, me and his mom, we were together for 6 years. We've been raising him his whole life. We knew early on that she was gonna like girls, because I do believe when it comes to being straight or gay, you're just kind of born that way. You like what you like, you can't help it. But after telling us he likes girls, which we understood at 10 years old, he was 12 when he texted me and he was like, I got something to tell you, Dad. And I'm like, well, give me a call. He was like, well, I don't want to give you a call. And he was like, he texted me and he was like, I want to identify as a boy. And my immediate response was, all right, son, I love you. Just because I accept my children as they are no matter what. So the trans thing with him, early on, his mother and she was very resistant to it because she was like, well, maybe it's just a fad and maybe he's gonna this. And I'm like, maybe. But while he tries to figure out who he wants to be, our job is to be supportive to a certain extent without going overboard. So I sat him down and we just told him right away, look, we're not doing any pills. We're not doing any hormones. We will respect your pronouns. We will respect your choices, and we will treat you as our son. But all those other things, you do that when you get on the other side of 18, if that's what you want to do. And the only conflict I've ever had with him is he punched me once. And I told him, I was like, look, I don't really play fight with my daughters, but I hit my sons full speed. So keep that in mind next time you want to punch me, and that's as close as we've ever come to having any conflict. There was never any confusion. We always knew that she was a lesbian. And then the progression from that to I want to identify as a boy was a little bit unexpected. But again, I love my children unconditionally, and I wasn't going to try to argue him out of how he feels. But it did raise a lot of questions for me to do a lot of research of how much of this is something he genuinely feels and how much of it is you feel like you don't necessarily belong, and the internet has exposed you to all these ideas, and you was like, you know what, that's what I want to be, and again, only time will tell if he outgrows it or if he sees it all the way through. And so far it appears he's going to see it all the way through. I mean, he's got a girlfriend, her parents know who and what he is, they're nice people. We've spent some time together. So far, it's been a fairly good experience for him, because I'll do my best to protect him from the rest of the world. But, I'm still learning and going along with all this. So there's a lot that I don't know or understand yet, but I'm doing the best I can as a father to be supportive of my children, because I think that's my number one job, is to be supportive of who they want to be, not who I want them to be.
All right, AK.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that, like, I stay out of just because of my weight in the whole conversation. Like, I definitely have a perspective as far as born a man at birth and then playing in, born a man at birth and then playing in women's sports from the physicality standpoint. It's bullshit. Like, like it shouldn't happen, like, under any circumstances. But the thing is, I'm a man, played man sports, raising a son.
Yep, sorry.
And
guys.
like, my son won't run into that conflict of like worrying about a woman being in men's sports. So like as far as me not being directly affected by it, I try not to like throw my opinion too much in the subject because like, I'm technically like on the outside. I mean, I have my idea how things should be, but some people don't. Some people defer. Like that's why Simone Biles felt so comfortable because like, based on the whole idea of inclusion, she's entitled in the things that she's saying. Like if you want to be like fully inclusive, like as some people think some things should be, like, there's not really limits to that. That includes allowing, trans men to play in men's sports or trans women to play in women's sports. So that's why, like, things like that need to be monitored. Like, it still allow people to live, but like it's so funny that you showed that democratic thing. Yeah, it's definitely like like a democratic point of view. I think of like where things like you want to be so good to everybody, but like then slippery slopes arise, and that's definitely one where you can go a different way. But I know like the trans population, like in the whole world, is like, or even in the U.S. is like 0.05% of the population. So like I know that these are really different conversations, and with me not having either a trans son or a trans daughter, like I'm not involved in it, and I mind my business on it, and it's not going to affect my son as much.
Yeah.
All right.
And
Go ahead.
sorry to jump in. So I understand your point on that one, AK. The concern is, even though it doesn't impact your son, it starts to impact, like, maybe it might be somebody else in your family at some point, or it might impact, like, maybe some awards at your kid's school.
Oh
Like,
yeah, and that's why I'm saying I still have a stance,
okay,
but
sorry.
like I'm not pushing my stance that much because like I don't like that when people like remain neutral in this conversation. No, I feel a way like yeah, I don't feel like that should be happening in sports. It's not fucking right. Like
Yeah.
to like if I had a daughter to face her to that level of competition, like that you're playing basically me.
Yeah.
Like
I'll say this much though. I think with Simone, I don't know what gave her or what made her do the apology. Maybe she just, got tired of all the flack she was getting. But I'm gonna give a little respect to her husband though, because she didn't take too long to apologize. And so I'm hoping that because maybe her husband didn't know that Simone was wilding out on Twitter of all places. But I think her husband, I think Jonathan Owens, I think's his name. I think he stepped in. He was like, "Look, you're gonna have to like walk this back because it's not you're on the wrong side of this, and you're doing too much." So maybe it wasn't Jonathan Owens, or maybe it was the sponsors, but somebody got to Simone and had her walk it back within like a day or two. So,
Oh, you think this is a PR move? Okay.
well,
oh, definitely. I mean, it's just not her fight. Like how I feel right now. It's not my fight, and the fact that she's overstepping, she definitely took the Pride Month stage, and being a gymnast for the American national team, you have like so many white women in your corner, like that's their thing, and like with white women also comes from both sides of the plate. She's definitely a more liberal person, but you get like the Democratic white women, and then like you get into the whole narratives and all that. So like I could see her being really empowered by the left and getting pushed to do some shit like that. But then yeah, you bring it back home and it's like, what am I even talking about?
All right, Colt, bring us home.
Okay. So it's a touchy subject, right? And at the
Yep.
end of the day, let's be serious. We could say that, yeah, we should say something because somebody in our family may one day be affected. I may be one day blessed with a girl. But we already know that as Black men, our opinion's not even wanted unless it is to agree with what is being said. And with transgender people being such a low percentage, and then the transgender athletes that would actually be doing this being even a lower number, it wouldn't be as hard too restricted. But the problem is that they probably wouldn't be allowed to play sports at all because there's not even really enough of them for a league. All of that being said, like shit happens, and like sometimes you're not allowed to do the thing that you wanted to do. I wanted to make it to the NBA, but I wasn't gifted enough to be, 6'8", because my game doesn't translate to a 6'3" point guard. I'm a 6'3" small forward, and in sports, I'm not allowed to play against fifth graders because I have an advantage over them. That's understood. We have different weight classes because there's advantages that are understood. We had different genders because there are advantages that were understood. We've had movies that have made parodies of somebody ignoring that difference. And so I think that it's not a throw the baby out with the bathwater thing because, to be honest, I don't really care what anybody does in their bedroom or in their pants as long as I'm not involved. So, and I think that most people truly feel that way. It's really just a matter of why is it being pushed at me when the truth of the matter is it doesn't. Like, yeah, Leah Thomas isn't going to be able to swim, but I mean, we're being courageous and taking a new path of life. These are the things that happen. Like, I'm a black man. Black men have been around for thousands upon thousands upon thousands of years. My shit is still rough. So I will be honest with you, I don't really have room for feeling sorry for people that are choosing and have the right to choose a way of life because the way of life that I'm choosing is hard for me to get. And it is what it is. Like it doesn't mean that you shouldn't have the rights and freedoms that I want for myself, but my rights and freedoms ends where somebody else's begins. And once I start imposing myself on somebody else, then that's a problem. And with the sports thing really being one way, and it usually being a person of a certain amount of sun reflecting pigment in their skin, it really speaks more to an ego problem that would be more of a mental health issue than it actually does to a real pandemic of some sort. And I think it's just another thing that's been thrown up to kind of throw more division between men and women because we can't really have honest conversations about this because, it's all so fragile. But the truth of the matter is, if I really was to be 100% honest and we weren't recording, I would say that this is just an ego problem of, those people that look like one of the greatest rappers who's not black. And it's like that's really what the problem is.
You
It's
trying
not
to say
anything
Eminem ain't in
else.
the top five, Cole?
No, not at all. I'm saying that he is. I love Eminem. But I'm just saying that the
That hey,
people
we
that
gonna debate that a different day because he is not in
well,
the top five.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's a whole other
no,
that's a whole other
no. But you
debate.
gotta, no. You gotta understand that hip hop is all about relatability and telling a
Hold on,
story.
don't pivot,
When
Cole.
no,
Don't
wait.
pivot because we got to close
No.
out.
That
I
is
got to
helpful.
because I was a young, angry black man. I completely related to Eminem. I was not getting money. I was mad. I wanted to hurt everybody. So
Oh
that's where it
man,
was for me. But yeah, like at the end of the day, like I don't really got. I don't. Nah, like she shouldn't be like, nah, that's not fair. Like sports is about competition. And in order to make it really about competition, certain things have to be made fair that may not be like that. Like we can't say that I'm not gonna fight you because you're fat in real life. You can't do that. That's fat shaming. But the truth of the matter is that you're not gonna have a welterweight face a heavyweight. So it just goes that's what sports is. So it doesn't
hey, fat
even
shaming is what made me lose 30 pounds. I was damn near 300 pounds a year and a half ago. But go ahead.
listen. I think that I'm not against shaming. Like, I think that sometimes, especially like when we were talking about accountability, I wasn't saying that there shouldn't be no accountability, but you're only going to be able to hold your friends accountable and the people that respect you enough to want to be held accountable. If people don't want to be held accountable, then they're going to do shit like, they're like, you know what? I suck as a swimmer, so let me go ahead and play with the girls because the boys are kicking my ass. And that it's a very small part of the population. And honestly, I don't even think most of the trans community agrees with that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's a different conversation too.
If
Matter
I'm
of fact, I got a guest I'm gonna
and
bring on at some point that's gonna blow that argument wide open. But
oh,
let's stop
uh-huh.
right here because right now we're about 30 minutes over. First of all, thank everybody who listened and thank everybody on the panel. This was our first time doing this. We wanted to keep it like father-like topics, but we're gonna get back to the funny stuff and the sports and everything next week. Occasionally, I'm gonna tap in with y'all and ask y'all to come on as guests, particularly if there's a topic I think you'll be great at. But we want to thank y'all for popping on as well. TR, why don't you close us out with your last words?
Oh shit. Hey, thanks for showing up. RJ, I didn't know you was a podcaster, so we may have to do some collaboration here.
Oh, you should see some pictures of RJ's studio. That is no joke.
Yeah, I saw the camera movement and everything. I was like, oh, he's certified.
Nah, anytime you guys, anytime you want to collaborate, I'm more than happy. Really.
Yeah. And Mel, thanks for educating us. When you're talking about your family, it kind of reminded me of what Dwayne Wade. We were going to have a conversation about Dwayne Wade, but that's kind of why he's had those conversations, and I think there's some benefit there as well too. And so I hope this conversation goes far, and other people can listen, because not everybody knows or has a interaction with either a trans kid or in any relation to a trans kid, other than what we kind of see in the news articles. And so but yeah, thanks for being transparent and having that conversation with us. And then AK and Cope, guys, thanks. We definitely want to have you back on here.
All right, everybody, we out. Peace.
See ya.
Thanks.